Alcohol is a drug, a classified depressant, that has a slowing effect on the human body. The feeling of drunkenness occurs when alcohol is drunk faster than the liver can break it down. When alcohol is consumed in large quantities or for long periods of time, it can lead to many serious health problems, such as blood diseases, nerve diseases, or cancer. However, according to studies by Edward J. Nifsi, he says, "We don't recommend that non-drinkers start drinking, but moderate drinking, if it is truly moderate, can be beneficial. Moderate alcohol consumption has been shown to reduce the risk of heart disease." Is drinking a sin, or is it okay to drink? The Bible never condemns drinking. It does not condone either, though. It teaches adamantly against drunkenness and strong drink, but the drinking of alcohol was very commonplace throughout the whole Old and New Testament periods by the Hebrew people and by the Christian church alike. Monasteries in the Middle Ages served as breweries. Christian fathers such as Martin Luther and John Calvin praised God for the gift of alcohol. Puritan minister Increase Mather preached that drink is in itself a good creature of God, and to be received with thankfulness, but the abuse of drink is from Satan. The wine is from God, but the drunkard is from the devil. Alcohol has been a large part of human culture, presumably since before the flood. Every major nation has made drinking a part of their culture. The founding of America had alcohol involved from the very start, and it's been a large part ever since. Drinking is usually associated with friends, having a good time, and relaxation. Even though alcohol is such a huge part of American culture, there was a time in American history that the brewing and selling of alcohol was made illegal. This was called the Prohibition era. Why was Prohibition enacted, and why was it unsuccessful? In 1919, America passed the 18th Amendment, called Prohibition. This was due largely to the efforts of the Anti-Saloon League and other groups like the Women's Christian Temperance Union. These groups advocated for abstinence, and in 1916, a dry Congress was elected. The 18th Amendment, or better known as Prohibition, was ratified on January 29, 1919. There were many reasons for its enactment, such as crime reduction, alcohol-related illness reduction, and a desire to strengthen families. It was predicted to be incredibly beneficial to the economy, increasing the sale of other goods and entertainment. However, it had largely the opposite effect. Within this period, crime related to alcohol rose due to bootlegging, and criminals like Al Capone arose to capitalize off the black market trade of alcohol. He earned a staggering $60 million annually from bootleg operations and speakeasies. Such black market operations fueled a corresponding rise in gang violence, including the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in Chicago in 1929. Restaurants were often forced to shut their doors because they couldn't survive without the sales from alcohol. The entertainment industry actually lost money, and alcohol-related deaths rose due to inferior quality alcohol. Also, the government suffered due to the lack of tax revenues from the sale of alcohol, as well as the cost of enforcing prohibition. Law enforcement often found it easier just to look the other way rather than keep the American public accountable to the prohibition laws. People found loopholes within the prohibition laws. One of the major flaws of the prohibition law was that it didn't actually make drinking illegal. It only made the brewing and selling of alcoholic beverages illegal, so people were free to own and drink their own beverages if they already had them. This made it more difficult for the police to enforce this law. Another major loophole in this law was found in the medical industry. Doctors found that they were allowed to prescribe alcohol as medicine, and because of this, the pharmacy industry really took off during this period. Religious groups had permission to continue using wine in their services, and congregations grew at churches and synagogues, as well as the number of self-professed rabbis who could obtain wine for their congregations. Whether the increase in church attendance was due to the availability of alcohol or because of the religious revival that preceded this time period, critics of the 18th Amendment are quick to write off Prohibition as a failed experiment. But it was not just made on a whim of a dry Congress. America was in a period of social disintegration. With the growing population of immigrants, her traditional values were being abandoned. Saloon culture was viewed as a reflection of a recessive societal decency, as drunkenness, prostitution, and corruption were all commonplace in saloon culture. Prohibition was the reaction to this moral decline, led by the Anti-Saloon League and religious organizations. In truth, while there was a desire to curb the antisocial effects and moral degradation of drinking, and to strike against the forces perceived as threatening to the social and political status quo, there was no national will to stop the act of drinking itself. Drinking was too ingrained of a societal norm to remove through simple legislation. It would have taken fully committed governmental enforcement and persistent long-term efforts by the Anti-Saloon League, along with the continuation of moral revival that started this movement to fully implement the 18th Amendment.